Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final day of the FTX Crypto Cup. Going into today's final games, we have Magnus, Carlsen, and Wesley So all tied up, and we have Nepomniachtchi and Teimour Radjabov coming off of a social media storm yesterday with their 4 quick draws. But today, I know the title is dramatic, but this is the first ever recap in which every single game that took place will be featured. That's how good it is. Give me about 30-35 minutes of your time, and I will give you the best video. I wore one of my favorite shirts. Shout out to All Saints. Absolutely love this shirt. Let's just go. Let's just get right into it. Game number 1, Nepomniachtchi throws all of yesterday out the window and plays b3. Teimour says, I like that. Let me copy you. I wasn't expecting this. And we have e4. Bishop b7, knight c3. And as early as move 5, we have a position that's almost never been reached before. Super rare setup here by both players. So what ends up happening is that Jan read enough of the Twitter nonsense, and he's like, you know what, I'm just going to come right out and just throw punches. And he just plays h4. He just plays h4. It's like, I want to make it into every single game of Gotham's recap. I don't actually think that's how Jan thinks. And let me just castle long. I'm going to go long. And Teimour is playing the hippo. So Teimour has played the setup known as the hippo. It's when black plays d6, e6, g6, h6, b6, a6, and puts the bishops like this. And black's setup really depends on the c5 and f5 breaks, and basically anytime white makes a center pawn move, black will move the other pawn forward, lock it, and go to work. But the problem is that Jan has taken such a weird setup against the hippo that Teimour has to move in a non-standard way. So he plays the b pawn rather than the c or the f pawn for now. Knight a4, a5, okay, great. But now Jan has much more development, so he just starts attacking in the center. f4. Just plays f4. And now total chaos is about to break out, right? So we have knight c8, and Jan just plays d5. And the thing is, normally in the hippo, you want to play this move, but that doesn't actually do anything because Jan's not going to play this. This is actually a terrible move. It gives black exactly what black wants. He's just going to keep the tension. He's going to play rook f1, bishop h3, and at some point he will take and shatter you down this file of the board. So Teimour trades and then does that, and you see what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? He waits. He waits. He doesn't close the position because that would have been his only line of attack. Now he plays rook f1, and now a very important move. I know that bishops are not necessarily, knights are not necessarily as valuable as bishops, but Jan trades and plays g4, and his idea is this. Now, the truth is, optically, this looks just incredible. This looks really strong for white. Computer here is trying to tell me 0.00, but this is one of those things where we say, look, you're like that annoying kid in the class who says, I didn't study for the test, and then gets 100. Yeah, we don't care about you, all right? Go away. Let's focus on the more mediocre minds. And we kind of see Jan just playing all the natural looking moves. Computer's still completely unafraid, is like, yeah, there's no attack, just a4. Teimour plays a4. Here, again, I mean, there's all sorts of attacking ideas looming here. You've got 4 pieces about to attack the king. Jan plays rook c6. Queen a7 played by Teimour, ready to take and go. And basically, it's like whoever gets the who's kings first. All right, it's a bloodbath. And actually, Jan decides not to attack anybody. He decides to trade the queen. Because after the queen trade, and after the knight for bishop trade, he transforms what was a nagging attack on his opponent to a winning rook endgame. That's how these guys do it. They will utilize the attack to transform the position in an advantageous way. It could have been avoided. Teimour could have played a takes b3, but it's move 30 of a rapid game. Time is low. It's all about efficiency. And Jan transforms the position. And even though everything is holdable for a moment, the truth is it's not. Because b takes a4, rook f7. If you take back, I just take c7. So rook f7, and now I come back. And yes, you can take on a4, but let's not forget, I have a second rook. And you just can't hold everything. Black is too passive. And literally after this move, rook b3, which looks like a mouse slip. It looks like he meant to take the rook. No, he meant to go here. Because who's going to guard b4? c5, I'll take it, or en passant, right? And if rook b3, a b3, c b3, I'm going to take this. And rather than suffering, Teimour just resigned. 4 minutes into recap, we already have a result. Nepo wins with the white pieces. And now we go to game number 2. This game, Teimour plays knight f3. Now, Jan plays g6. And so Teimour's like, okay, you're going to give me the modern. I'll play the modern. Now we have a Pierce King's Indian setup. Not the King's Indian defense, but a Pierce setup. Players developing their pieces. Bishop g4, very common idea. I actually really like to play like this with black. The fact that Jan likes it either makes me happy or he's doing something wrong, because if I like something, he probably shouldn't be playing it. And so knight d7. This is the point. You bring back the knight to d7, you get out of the way of a bishop that doesn't exist anymore, and you're ready to play e5. And we get basically all of that, but here, Teimour shows that, listen, the super GMs, they know what's up. So he plays knight to e2. The idea of knight to e2, you want to bolster your center with c3 and make this bishop bite on granite. Now, I'm just going to warn you, this is a 90-move game. So if you have a short attention span, you might want to just like jump a little bit ahead. And if not, bear with me, okay? Knight to a5, going out flanking. Knight jumps into c4. He said, hey, I'll go back to my home square. You're not taking my bishop. Now I'm going to kick out your knight. That knight is dancing in and out, in and out, in and out. Bishop back to e3. Takes, takes, queen b6. And now the play switches to the queen side. Now, white is always better in these positions. White has the bishop pair. White has more space. This is just about the dumbest knight I've ever seen in my life. Maybe like second dumbest. And now the knight is just stuck. So rather than attacking the knight, a lot of you guys do this. You play these one-move attacking moves. You forget that the pawn covers the square, and black just immediately gets a better position. Build the net around the knight. Now the knight's got no moves. Knight's just got no moves. And you're ready to win it as time goes on. So Jan has to start, you know, I mean, he's got to try to do something, but he can't. That's just, position's really difficult. So he plays b5. Takes, takes, queen d2. Now he's trying to defend his knight, but knight d4. Every move you make forward, everything behind you gets weak. That's deep. Did you hear that? Every move you make forward, everything behind you gets weaker. So be careful when you move forward in life. You don't want to, you know, you don't want to just turn your back on everybody that was there for you in the past. Jeez, oh my God. Queen b4, queen b6, and takes. Okay, Teimour's got the b pawn, which Jan pushed, but this is Jan's style. Give the pawn away, let's get active, let me be up on the clock. Okay, knight, bishop comes back to e2 to guard the knight jumps back, queen c4, and we're ready with b4. Here we go, we're pushing. b4, yes, get out of there, get out. Queen c2, okay, at some point I'm gonna be ready with this f4 move. Knight to c6. Also good, because I'm just gonna advance. Bishop pair, extra pawn. This is where I'm stronger, so I'm gonna play on that side. Rook c1, now e6. Jan's trying to break out, he's gotta make a pawn break. Bishop f1, Jan's going wild. h5. Position here is like +7 for white, even though white is only up a pawn, because white's dominant. Black's position looks good, but totally dominated here. b5, but this is only move 40. How did this game go 50 more moves? Well, takes on d5, knight d7. Black is so back that even though the advantage is there, white's got to make it all the way into the territory and not blunder anything. And as the game is progressing, that's exactly what Teimour does. Like, I'm just hitting the forward button. You notice? Teimour, like, is patiently waiting. He's completely dominant. But Jan does Jan things. He takes rook for bishop, which normally is not a good trade. But it gives him a target. It just gives him a target. That's all he needs. He's got c5. The b pawn you can't push a pawn through a knight. All right, knight c5. And now he's just kind of got a blockade. Now Teimour, as the time ticks lower, has to find something. He plays e5, sacrificing a pawn in the center to maybe get that b7 knight out of there. Now he's got two passed pawns. So here he goes. Bishop f8, still stabilizing. Never too late to blunder something. All right, queen b5, let's go for a queen trade. Let's not go for a queen trade. Knights get off the board. Queen trade? Uh-oh. Teimour might have just made a mistake. Because after king h1, all of a sudden after queen f5, I can just abandon my knight, which protects my bishop, which is more important than my knight. And if you take on b7, I take on b1, you can take with check, and yet, somehow, black is not completely lost here. Bishop d6, and you can't move. White can't push. White can't stop guarding this. So it's never over with Jan. And all of a sudden, Jan's coming forward. Rook d1, knight c5. What is going on? Jan is about to win this game. Whoa. Jan, hey, Jan, we're friends, right? Yeah, Jan. But this dude just sacked the queen. Hold on a second. Bishop d3 was a very practical decision by Teimour, because after knight d3, if we got queen d3 and this trade, for example, this endgame's just winning. So Teimour found a way to see through all of the trees and just tree for the forest for the... Okay, I was philosophical earlier. This saying I'm just going to abandon because I'm just going to get it wrong. I one-take these. I'm not trying to edit that out. So anyway, he goes for the practical thing, and Jan just sacks a queen. So now Jan's got whatever the hell this is. He's got bishop, knight, that's it, 4 pawns each, and a passed pawn. And that pawn got really damn close. He was really close to winning this game. Teimour had to work overtime to win this. Because again, he can't push. Teimour can't push. The knight takes. You can't take because... So Teimour walks his king over to stop that pawn. Then pushes his b pawn. And it ultimately comes down to his final pawn. Like, if Teimour didn't have that final pawn on the board, he would not have been winning. He ends up picking off that pawn on f7 and shuffling his queen around to give the right checks. Because this is losing, but only if you're very accurate, and you have to be very accurate. You have to get the pawn, and you have to stop black's other pawn. And he walks his king over to his b7 pawn, shuffles around. At some point, he will infiltrate. There it is. King gets kicked away, and ultimately there is a fork by the king. Knight b8, king c7. Guys, I told you this game was absolutely insane. Teimour Radjabov has struck back. I mean, I feel like I lived like 2 months of my life watching that game. We're 10 minutes into the recap. I still have like 10 more games to show you. Okay, let's go. Game number 3. b3 again. What do you know? What did Radjabov prepare in the break time between games? Okay, he prepares kind of like a very solid reverse London. Great. Bishop c5, e4. Very aggressive. Bishop g6, e5, knight back to g8. h4, h6, knight h3, knight e7, knight f4. I mean, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? This position is a lot more closed, but white is better. Because white is about to get the 2 bishops. White will then expand in the center. Let's see how... Oh, man, Teimour's letting the knight come in. Oh, he played g4. Oh, goodness me. He is going for an attack. f6! Okay. I can take, and now my bishop is stronger. But I guess Teimour is saying that I'm going to just trade everything. You have no attack. Okay, fine, I have no attack. That's fine. Wait, he just let him take the pawn. And it was the best move. It's the best move to let Jan go and take that pawn so he can jump in with counterplay. These dudes, I don't know what they did yesterday. They just decided not to play yesterday. I don't know what that was. And now this game, Jan just sacked the bishop on g2 with check. He's got a... What is going on? Queen f6. Now we have a queen trade in this. So now the sides have bishop, knight, bishop, bishop, 2 rooks, but Jan is up a pawn. He's up a pawn and e5 is pretty weak. And he's just holding on. Now this move to block out the bishop was a big mistake by Teimour because he blocked out his own bishop. You see that? It was a slight inaccuracy on his part, and now Jan is able to begin stabilizing. And the thing is, black needed the bishops active. You're going to see as this game goes on, this bishop is never able to get back into the game, right? First, we get rid of that bishop, so now we have the same color bishop. Opposite colored bishop endgames could be drawn, and now all Jan has to do is just be like, dude, I'm a super GM. I'm literally playing for the World Championship later this year. I'm up a pawn. I'm going to win this game. And that's kind of what he does. Like, he's got weaknesses, but he just stabilizes his position very, very, very slowly. And now Teimour's got counterplay. Okay, gonna deal with that. No counterplay for you. Takes, rook f3. And okay, you can win my a pawn. Congratulations. Now I have rook f7. Congrats. I sacrifice a pawn for activity. Keep that in mind. Rook d7. And what's my most important asset in this position? Not my rook. You said rook. You a bozo. Bishop? What are you talking about? H-pawn. H-pawn. Rook and bishop. They also got rook and bishop. H-pawn. If this pawn's here, it's a draw. All right? H-pawn, and that's it. Bishop h4, h6, Teimour resign. H, rook, bishop, bang, bang. King is forced out of the corner. GG. We covered that game in 3 minutes. 2-1, baby! Nepo's got a 2-1 lead. No one. Oh my goodness. They can't stop. They can't stop. No one can stop the bleeding. Knight f3. We come down to the 4th rapid game. c5. c4, knight f6, we have symmetrical. Listen, when you're playing with the black pieces and you have to not lose, the best thing you could do is copy for a while, right? I mean, for a while, you can't copy to the end. They checkmate you, you can't return the favor. g3, okay. Here, I like to play e3, but g3, one of the main lines, d4. All right, now we got like a reverse Grunfeld that could be a mirror image. Oop, g6 could be a mirror image. Now a bunch of trades happen. cd5, knight d5, bishop g2, takes. Okay. Agad Mathur would love that. I mean, or he would say captures. Also, congratulations to him. He had a baby. Not him, his wife, but congratulations to him and his family, as an aside. That would have been a lot of captures in a row. Bishop d6, a4. Teimour's got a very powerful bishop on the diagonal, And he is going to build around that bishop. First, let's trade off black's most active piece. Okay, we're 15 moves into the game, and Nepo plays bishop to b7. He hasn't gotten any development. So what we gotta do now is we gotta activate our rooks. Let's have an instructive endgame lesson. King to the middle. Your king's gotta get out into the open, unless there's a bunch of pieces on the board. But the rooks are not scary. If they were queens, well, first of all, how'd you get 2 queens? But bishop c6, bishop f1. And you gotta make the right trades in endgames. You gotta make the right trades. Should you trade here? Decides not to. Bishop is more active. Rook c7, a5, pawn break. Now that's a trade we like. We like that break. And we start building around that b-file pressure. e5, very nice move. Try to play bishop e4, get rid of this rook, take on b6. And what Jan ends up doing is just giving the pawn away for activity. So Jan's deficiency in this position is this pawn. He's down a pawn. However, if you get rid of everybody, it's gonna end up rook and bishop versus rook and bishop, but white will have a d-pawn. But if that bishop can sacrifice itself, that might be a draw. Rook and bishop versus rook is a draw, but you can also lose it in low time situation. So now it's up to Teimour to find a way forward. So he advances like this. Now we have a bunch of checks, and Teimour runs his king to g2. Computer wanted him to run his king to c4. And see, ultimately, that's what it comes down to in endgame sometimes. Where do you run your king? He runs his king out of checks to safety, and Jan just roams around the board. He's like, all right, come back. You gonna come back? No? Okay, I'm just gonna do nothing. I'm just gonna do nothing. Now you gotta guard your pawns. I'm gonna give you checks. Where are you going? Check, 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 check. Oh, you think a rook trade is gonna win you this endgame? Oh, you think a rook, so what do? Do you trade rooks? Down a pawn in an endgame? Is it a win for white? Is it a draw? Oh, Jan calls the bluff. And then plays this move f6. Super important move. And white has nothing. White has nothing. If you take, you're not going to win a 3 on 2. Not with bishops, because my bishop can sacrifice itself for the final pawn. It's impossible to win that. And even this transformation is a draw, because all Jan has to do is sit. He just sits. He's got a dark squared blockade. All his things are on dark squares. Bishop is light square, can't do anything. And that's it. Teimour tries to make some forward progress, and he tries to make some forward progress, and he tries to make some forward progress, and he trades off the last pawn, but it's over. One wrong decision. Teimour needed to move his king to a bit more active situation. I mean, again, he could have drawn in that situation too. It was a very tough game, but he moved his king a little bit passively. Jan was resourceful in his defense, just like he's shown throughout this event, and he drew this game to win his match. A clutch hold at the very end, and Jan wins the rapid portion of their match to win 1.5, and he is the 3rd place winner of the FTX Crypto Cup, which brings us to the main event of the evening. A brutal fight yesterday. And if you just skipped ahead in the timestamps to this point of the video, what are you doing? Well, like, what are you doing? You just missed the whole other part. And if you've watched all the way through, I love you. Thank you for the sweet ad revenue. Unless you're watching on ad blocker. I still love you, though. Listen, we got to do what we got to do, right? I got to do what I got to do. You got to do what you got to do. End of the day, the world keeps on spinning. I keep on wearing nice shirts. You keep on commenting on the video. 700 comments in the first 30 minutes yesterday. Are you kidding me? Are you like, really? What kind of engagement rate is that? You guys are amazing. Anyway, Magnus begins the match with d4. And we have a Queen's Gambit declined, semi-Tarash sort of thing. We've seen them play this a lot. Magnus says, let's be solid. Wesley says, I'm going to take on c4. I don't want to copy you. Now, up until this point of the game, they were following their own game from the Skilling Open like 6 months prior. They played basically up until this same moment. So, let's take a look at the position. Queens are gone, 2 pawns have been traded, 2 rooks, 2 knights, 2 bishops per player, completely symmetrical structure. However, a fundamental discrepancy. The king is in the middle for black, and black has pushed the pawns. So what do you do? Well, pawn play. Folks, you've been watching these recaps long enough. These guys, particularly a guy named Magnus Carlsen, doesn't need much in a position to create imbalance. So b4, a5, a5, danger levels. Danger levels. Wesley could have taken the knight and traded for the bishop. He says no. Now the knight can go that way. And the game goes on with Magnus building on that queenside advancement. He plays bishop d2. Wesley engages in a trade. Magnus plays rook c1 to attack the bishop. And Wesley decides to trade with the intention to probably just block everything like solid, right? you're not getting through there. So this game will probably be won and lost on the c-file, and depending on these weaknesses and the dark squares, because I am the only one who has a dark squared bishop. I have just somehow replaced my Magnus Carlsen with myself. Hopefully not, because then Wesley will sweep me. So we see that exactly that is happening, and now Magnus remembers his Alpha Zero training that he did in the underground lair of the computer lab, and he plays a move here, which is super, it's just like, it's a super engine move, h4. Like, basically, he's stronger on dark squares due to his dark squared bishop, so in the future, this pawn will be useful to attack that structure. And his king can't get back rank checkmated, just for the beginners watching. But, I'm not even joking. Watch as the game goes on, and Magnus counterattacks the rooks, right? So we're gonna have some trades. He trades. He voluntarily takes it to an opposite colored bishop endgame because he realizes this bunch of pawns is weak. Remember that move h4 some time ago? How does he know? How does he know it's gonna be useful? In opposite colored bishop endgames, the attacking side is always going to benefit because your bishop works with your pieces, but the enemy bishop can't defend against your bishop, right? I say this in every recap. So now we have rook b5. No, we don't trade. Hey, we don't trade. I keep telling you guys, we don't trade. And now rook h3. And this superhuman dude just infiltrates on this side of the board, b3, g5, and he just checks the king, puts his bishop here. This rook is in jail. So now this rook just can't break free. It's completely locked in by Magnus's pieces. And final move of the game, just very simple, rook g7. I don't know how he does this. Wesley resigned. Okay. And so Magnus wins game number 1. You having fun yet? This is a pretty fun recap, right? Okay. So game number 2. Game number 2, Wesley plays e4, and Magnus plays the Sicilian defense. Bro, you gotta, like, not lose. What are you doing? Anyway, we have a Rossalimo. Seen many times. Magnus has seen this many times. Plays e5. Again, if you've never seen this before, this is not the loss of a pawn, because queen to d4. But e5 is still a pretty rare move, but it's getting played more and more now. And what ultimately ends up happening is actually the position kind of resembles an e4, e5 position, where the rest of the pieces just kind of got drunk. Like, it's e4, e5, but why is this here? Like, why is this here? How did you play knight f3, knight c6? But anyway, whatever. Everybody's, maybe they're not drunk. Maybe it's acid. I don't know. But Magnus plays a really, really bold system. Very bold. And kind of unnecessary because just 10 moves into the game, Wesley's already borderline winning. He's got e4, f4. Magnus has no central pawns. Whatever the heck this is, knight of... Just, I don't know. I mean, he just kind of took a hit of something a little bit too potent. Now we get queen h5. And basically, Wesley's saying, yo, Mags, go castle. Go ahead. No, but you're so brave. Come on, castle. Magnus says, you know, I'm good. I'm just doing my thing over here. King h1, queen c5. Psych! You backed up. Oh, you gone now. Oh, you left, so I'm castling. Wesley said, that's the last mistake you'll ever make because I'm going to attack your queen, and your queen moves. Now just go back. Otherwise, you would have taken me. So now I'm back. Mag's like, all right, c5, counterplay. Knight d2, let me finish getting all my pieces into the game. At some moment, I promise, Magnus, I will play this move to attack your queen, activate my light squared bishop, and then you're going to die. Oh, yeah. Oh, you're so big. Oh. All right. Hey, listen, Wesley, you're looking really nice today. You got a nice suit on. You got a big house. Relax. I thought we were cool. We don't need to do it like this. Wesley, stop. Wesley, no, oh, God. Uh-oh. Oh, that's a really nice move. So basically, folks, when you have a massive attack in chess, you have a couple of options. Number one, you can play moves like knight g5, which hang checkmate in 1, okay? You can play moves like that. Now, what these guys do is they find ways to shatter their opponent's defenses, right? And you can advance the pawns, you can take stuff, but this really strong move, if you take, you block your own defense of your knight, you just get rid of it. And if you take with the queen, well, I just have f5. So I notice how I can coordinate your pieces, and then I find ways to kind of pick it apart. So Magnus can't take. If you can't take the e6 pawn, you're probably screwed. So he plays this. Wesley goes, takes, knight e5, king if I did that. Okay, he transforms the position, and he's up a rook. Let me just instant replay that. So he takes on f7, and then he sacks his queen. He sacks his queen for a check, and you can't checkmate a guy when you're in check. You would try to play this and it wouldn't work. So now we have this, and the rest of the game is mostly Wesley So just cleaning up the rest. I will ceremoniously go through the moves. Also very important that sometimes, you know, your opponents are going to create counterplay against you. Just don't let them. Trade when necessary. Okay, trade when necessary. There we go. And here, Magnus resigned because you're going to trade, game is over, and it's 1-1. Very questionable decision by Magnus to play a Sicilian, but again, he has a game to give away. Against Hikaru, Magnus was down for 3 of those, like, cycles. He was down 1-0, he was down 2-1, and he lost the first game on the second day. So this time, Magnus is a game ahead. He's like, all right, let me play the Sicilian, and Wesley comes very well prepared, so we go to game 3. Okay, now Magnus has white again. We have an absolute repeat. But this time, Magnus doesn't play e3, he plays cd5. And this is this ultra trendy thing. Again, normally you take d5 here, but no, cd4. So now we have queen d4, e d5, e4, d4, queen d8, king d8, knight g5, bishop e6, takes, bishop g5. Okay. King e8. And by the way, all this got seen already. Now basically the plan is for black to give away the bishop pair, be down a pawn, be up a pawn, and for white to win back one of these pawns, white will have to trade pieces, and black just basically says, I'm gonna be fine. Okay, you're gonna be fine? Great. All right, prove it to me. Bishop, knight to e5 attacks the bishop on on c4. So takes, but this allows this move. So Magnus plays in a way where he hangs a check, hangs a pawn, and loses one of his rooks. For what? Activity. Okay. And Wesley has all his pieces on the back rank. And Magnus is 2 moves away from checkmating. That doesn't mean it's mate in 2. I hate when you guys do that. Isn't it mate in 2? No! It's mate in 2 if the other guy falls asleep. Otherwise, no. Wesley's not going to get checkmated. He goes for a rook trade, sacrifices a pawn for activity, activates the rook to try to kick out the bishop. Bishop comes back, F. Very important move. You give away 2 pawns, but now king d8. So you don't get hit with any bishop check and any of that nonsense, and now you can activate your king. And Wesley's activated his pieces for the cost of potentially 3 pawns. But once his rooks and bishop get into the game, by the way, that's not free. Anyway, once his rooks and bishop get into the game, Magnus doesn't really have a chance of winning this. He picks up the 3rd pawn, but now Wesley's too active, and Wesley's a practical guy. He can't really play this position for a win because he's just down too many pawns, so he finds a way to repeat moves. And I have no idea if this was 35 moves of deep engine analysis by Magnus that basically Wesley had to walk through a field of mines to survive, but he survives. And now, folks, we get to potentially the most exciting part of the entire recap, because now I'm going to show you clips. It's game 4. It's rapid. Wesley So must win to win the FTX Crypto Cup. What does he do to win the game? He plays e4. Magnus Carlsen plays e5. Knight f3, knight c6. Okay, we got a rule. Okay, well, obviously, look, Magnus got to hold the game, right? So he's going for the Berlin. Now, Wesley obviously plays, okay, not the anti-Berlin, but he allows the Berlin. Rook e1, d4. Is he going to go for the Berlin endgame? Knight d6. Now we get bishop c6. Wait, we're not going to get a Berlin endgame? No. Wait, Wesley. What? No. No. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh. Wesley So forces a draw with white. Forces a draw with white. It's 2-2. Folks, this was the response to this. These are all clips taken from the official broadcast. Please don't copyright strike me. You guys are amazing. Thank you for the amazing coverage as always. This was the official reaction.
Dozens of times in this tour so far. Quick repetition. Look at Magnus's face. He's surprised. Look at Magnus. He's shocked that Wesley went for this.
Yeah. I mean, Magnus was like, you think you're going to beat me in the blitz? All right, let's see about that. Here we go, folks. The format is 2 games of blitz, 5-minute and 3-second bonus. If it's 1-1, Armageddon. Wesley is the higher seed. Look at the standings. Wesley's the higher seed, so he always picks which color he starts with. Wesley chooses to start with the black pieces, and Magnus Carlsen plays the orangutan. What? He's played it in this event, but are you kidding me? In this, like, At this stage, for these stakes, Magnus, what are you doing, baby? So we have, I don't even know how to classify this. Like, this is basically black plays I don't know. I mean, it's a Slav, it's a semi-Slav setup, but your biggest problem, which is the light squared bishop, is gone. So Wesley's happy. I mean, Wesley's got a totally okay position. And truthfully, the game only got spicy once they traded off a little bit on the queen side right here. So what's the imbalance? Well, I've got a weak c6 pawn. You've got a weak b pawn. The rooks are just staring at each other. So these guys are having a staring contest. No one wants to take and surrender control of the a file to the other. And here Magnus plays this move. Rook b1 followed by bishop takes knight, which just looks like the most crazy move ever. Why would you trade your bishop for the knight unprovoked? Well, he wants to go d4 and basically shut down this bishop. You trade your dark squared bishop, you put everything on the dark squares. Well, Wesley says, okay, this is not hanging. I have bishop takes h2 check. And now I just put my bishop on d6. This little zigzag is maybe what Magnus just underestimated. And you're not ever going to get to this so easily because b4 is weak. And if we trade b for c, probably a draw. Only black is better because black has the long range piece. So knight d3, rook b8, knight f3, rook b6, stabilizing everything, and knight e5. Magnus has the perfect formation that he desired when he went for that trade, but Wesley's solid. There is probably no real way through here. Queen c2, takes, knight d7. Probably just equal. You're not going to get to this. You're not. You're just not. You can stockpile all the pressure that you want, and Wesley actually finds a tactical solution. He finds c5. And so after c5, knight c5, knight c5. Wait, what is the tactical solution? Because if bc5, you take this, and if queen c5, there is a shocking tactic here for black. Rook c6, and you can't take because there is a back rank mate, and Wesley tricked Magnus. Apparently, rook c3, counter threat of back rank mate, was the way to go. The knight can't move. If knight d7, you have rook c7 with the fork. Unreal tactical sequence. And this was the reaction when rook c6 happened. I told you I was going to show you a lot of clips to end this recap. This was the reaction.
Magnus just blundered rook c6, winning on the spot.
Oh my god, rook c6, queen c6, and
look at this, yeah, Magnus going crazy, completely crazy, yeah. How could he blunder this?
Back rank mate.
Yeah.
And look at Magnus, he's so angry with.
I mean, wouldn't you be mad? Look at how high stakes of a game this is. Rook to c6. And what ends up happening is Magnus is just down a queen for a rook. Wesley doesn't get mated. Magnus pushes his b pawn. I mean, there's not much else to see. It's a guy just beating another guy with queen versus rook. And that's it. It's over. Because again, you can go here, but I'm going to check you. I'm going to win all your pawns and game is over. Wesley So just won with black. What is going on? What is going on? Wesley So just won with black. Oh my goodness. So now Magnus Carlsen has the black pieces. Here we are again, but he's down a game. He's not up a game. So what does he do against d4? He plays c5. I mean, well, what are you going to do? I mean, yeah, it's the Sicilian. You got to win with black. So e4, c5. Now, for this game, Magnus doesn't have a suit on. He's only got a t-shirt on. I'm not even kidding. Like, he straight up just isn't wearing a suit. He's in a t-shirt. And so, well, you'll see that clip later. Knight f3, d6, bishop b5. And basically, Wesley's like, let's pump the brakes on this thing. Let's pump the brakes on this thing. Let's be solid. Solid. I can't lose this game. c4. Bishop b7, knight c3, knight e5. A move that probably Magnus wouldn't play normally, but he's got to create imbalance to win with black. Pawn structure imbalance complete. Okay, great. d3, e6, a3, bishop e7. When's the clash of pieces going to happen? b4. There it is. Castles, rook b1, knight d7, bishop e3, queen c7, rook b2. I'm just moving back and forth. Not much is happening. Until now. Takes, a5. Okay, there it is. Magnus has had enough. He's got to create something on that side of the board. Wesley says, take, knight b5. Hey, look at my knight. It's so nice. Look at my bishop. It's so nice. Look at my rook. It's so nice. And this pawn's not an asset. I'm going to win this pawn. I am going to win this pawn. You have no more defense. Rook a7. All right, you want to repeat moves? Oh, well, obviously not. h3. I'm just going to wait. Knight c5. Are you actually going to win this? Whoa. Wait, Can't I take? Can I take? Oh. Should have killed me when you had the chance? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Whoa, whoa. It takes this, but wait a second. Magnus Carlsen just... Now this pawn's not going anywhere. And this is the worst bishop of all time. Is Magnus playing this for a win? Wesley takes and just continues to try to hold the fort, but a3. c5 by Wesley. Takes. Bishop e2. Wesley wants to put the bishop here, but he's not fast enough. What? Whoa. F5. F5. And the game is over. Wesley resigns. Why is it over? If you take just this. Wesley went for a trick here. Rook takes rook, bishop e6 check. That's what he went for. But he didn't get it. And all of a sudden, Magnus plays f5. Magnus wins with black. Folks, I don't know what to say. It's 3-3. Which means, oh, and by the way, I have to show you the clip, right? I mean, Magnus he was hyped, is an understatement.
And if you fall back, rook a1, and that's it.
Have you ever seen him do that? This guy's looking like a League of Legends esports ad. I mean, my man just... Ugh. You ever feel like that after a game? It's 3-3, which takes us to the final game of the recap. This is the longest recap I've ever made, and if you've made it this far in the video, thank you. Here we go. You're not going to regret this. Wesley chooses to play with the black pieces. Wesley So has 4 minutes on the clock. Magnus has 5. If Wesley makes a draw, he wins the FTX Crypto Cup. e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, the Italian, knight f6, d3, bishop c5 castles, Wesley plays h6. h6 gets rid of all bishop g5 stuff, and knight g5 stuff. Magnus plays the move pawn to c3, looking for d4, Wesley plays castles. Magnus says, I'm not just looking for d4, I'm looking for b4 and a4. This is another way to play this position in the modern day. You want to play a5 or b5. Now, here there's many ways to play the position, a6 and a5. Wesley chooses a6, very solid. Knight d2, d6, rook e1. Super solid position. So, how does a guy who must win play a position where he must win? By attacking the center of the board. Takes, d5 from Wesley. Wesley looks to break in to the center as well. And if you play something like e takes d5, lazily capturing, I will go here, push pawn, bring bishop back, stabilize the position. What does Magnus do? He makes a wedge. If you take my bishop, I take your knight. That's terrible for black. So Wesley thinks for a while here and plays this move, but just a very calm retreat. And even though you can play knight to f4, I'm just gonna chill. Like, okay, so you got these knights here. And a5. Bye-bye. Get out of here. Bishop a7. Now trade. Just take the knight. Why? It accelerates white's development. Queen to d2. No easy way to attack the knight. I mean, to defend the knight. Knight has to go back, so now I just jump into your position. Very easy game for white. I'm just going to spend the rest of my game stockpiling the pressure right here. And I might even attack you on the king side. And folks, Magnus Carlsen does both of those things. First, he attacks the knight on g6. Wesley has to block. Then he plays bishop back to c2 to potentially go over here. Plays g3. g3 disallows the knight to come forward. Maybe he will play h4, h5 in the future. Takes. Ladies and gentlemen, what do you take with? Trick question, they're both good. B takes c5. You can also take with the d pawn and just line up your attack over here, but Magnus takes like this because Wesley doesn't have anywhere to move and the b7 pawn is not going anywhere. Here. The b7 pawn is not going anywhere, and now you dominate the center, you dominate the queen side. Where will the empire fall for the black pieces? On the other side of the board, knight to h4, but it's deceiving because the point is not to get in like this. You got to take one step back to take 2 steps forward, knight to g2. The madman did it, and he is rerouting toward the middle. Wesley has to play g5. At some moment, he probably will. In the meantime, he's trying to trade pieces, and now the move g5 is on the board. The problem is, folks, how do you gain access to these squares? Well, you got to go to the source. Pawn's got no moves now. Anywhere it moves, this knight will outflank it, and then you will move your king and attack on this side. By distracting Wesley's pieces to the defense of the other side of the board, Magnus created an infiltration point on the king side, and now those pieces cannot go over because of the rook's constant pressure. Absolutely beautiful game, although probably one of slightly lower quality than we are used to at this level, just because, you know, it's such a stressful game. There's no increment. You gotta, you know, a lot of the super GMs end up playing slightly worse in the Armageddon than they normally would. And Magnus just plays e6. He's got a lot of passed pawns. He's ready to just win this game down the middle of the board. Notice how his rooks haven't moved. In fact, his rooks don't move until move 42 to defend the d-pawn. And the empire will fall on the queen side. King g6, rook c7, and in this position, Magnus Carlsen won the FTX Crypto Cup. Wesley So resigned. And here, one final clip for you, the celebration of Magnus Carlsen.
No, knight's clock is not even important. Yeah, Wesley resigns. Magnus is going crazy. Look at this, how he's celebrating.
Oh my god.
You gotta feel for him, man. I mean, Magnus has lost to Wesley in a couple of these matches. He has not yet won a major event. So he wins $60,000. He wins 0.6 of a Bitcoin, which probably was worth 40 different things throughout this video. And this recap is officially done. It took 40 minutes. If you managed to watch the whole thing, thank you once again, folks. As a parting note, I don't really know what to say. I'm overwhelmed by the support. We've had like 2,000 comments on some of these recent videos, so thank you for watching. As always, shout out to Magnus for winning the strongest online tournament ever. Like, so many of the top players in the world played. This was so much fun. This was just so much fun, and I'll see you in the next video, folks.